Yes, I'm Dr. Susan Beck. I'm the Chief Science Officer at UOA and also a member of the SED. And I was asked today to talk about Elevate. And since we're among friends, there's things that I can say about Elevate that I can't say at larger events, like Impact Summit. So this is what we're going to go over today. I'll go over Elevate's benefits. I'm going to add some things to really say Impact Summit. We're going to talk about who should take Elevate. We're also going to talk about Elevate versus the competition. And I have looked so hard, but I cannot find any other product that measures up to Elevate. And we'll go over why. If any of you have any questions about anything that I talked about today afterwards, come find me. I'm around for the rest of the day and also tomorrow. We're also going to talk about some commonly asked questions about Elevate. I'm going to share some recent testimonials about Elevate with you, and then we're going to talk about Elevate compared to Upbeat and something like Tea. So, as you know, Elevate is for focus and energy and hydration, no artificial colors, flavors, or added sugar. It's only 10 calories. It's GMO free. The secret sauce to Elevate is its nootropic ingredients. Nootropic ingredients improve brain function, they improve focus and attention, they support physical energy, and then they also work on neurotransmitters to make us feel better. So they support a positive mood. Also, Elevate has key vitamins and amino acids for energy production, so we get more energy from the food that we eat. Again, for neurotransmitter support, for immune health. It also helps with exercise recovery, and it also helps optimize our athletic performance. Elevate also contains electrolyte minerals for rapid hydration. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later on. I'm not going to talk about every single ingredient today. Like, for example, we have 100% UV of B6, B12, folic acid. We have 300% UV vitamin C. I'm really going to focus on what makes Elevate special. So let's start talking about nootropics. It comes from the two Greek words, nous, which means mind, and tropin, which means towards. It's a term that was coined by a scientist back in 1972 to describe any substance that activates cognitive function, especially with respect to learning and memory. This is how they work. They are able to cross the blood-brain barrier. Not all substances can do that, but nootropics can cross the blood-brain barrier. And because they can cross the blood-brain barrier, they increase blood flow to the brain, and they also improve the brain's oxygen supply. They help reduce inflammation in the brain, and they have a positive impact on neurotransmitters. Now, neurotransmitters are chemicals in the brain that regulate things like energy and mood and appetite and attention and our stress response, and scientists have discovered over 100 neurotransmitters. So these are just a few of the neurotransmitters that Elevate impacts. Acetylcholine for learning and memory, GABA, which helps control stress and anxiety, serotonin, which is required for happy, calm feelings, and dopamine, which is linked to feelings of reward and motivation. So these are some of the neurotransmitters that Elevate impacts. Now, Elevate uses a combination of caffeine and L-theanine. There's 10 human studies on caffeine and L-theanine that show that the two work better together than separately to help with cognitive function, especially with regard to memory and learning. Now, L-theanine is the calming amino acid that's naturally occurring in green tea. It's not the kind of amino acid that builds protein. It's the kind of amino acid that calms our mind. And in Neolife, we only use suntheanine, which is a patented pure L-theanine that's created through a fermentation process. And the reason this is important is because it's the highest quality and it's the most studied L-theanine available. Most other companies use the cheaper L-theanine from China, which is often very poor quality. I've spent in the industry a long time, And I've spent quite a bit of time studying the difference in quality between sun-theanine and then various different types of L-theanine from China. And the stuff from China is almost always poor quality, and it just doesn't work as well. It doesn't test out as well, it doesn't work as well. And you'll know if a company is using the cheap L-theanine because they'll just label it as L-theanine. Because sun-theanine is expensive, so if they're gonna be using sun-theanine, they're gonna put it on their label. So Neolife, we're only using sun-theanine. There are 45 human studies on sun-theanine, and out of those 45, there are 10 studies on sun-theanine and caffeine together. Sun-theanine has been found in human studies to increase alpha waves in the brain, and alpha waves are associated with a relaxed but alert state of mind. And we also use the clinically backed doses of sun-theanine and caffeine. That's also an important difference. Most companies don't. In fact, I haven't found a company that does yet. So we use 200 milligrams of sun-theanine and 120 milligrams of caffeine. Our caffeine comes from green tea. At Neolife, we use only naturally sourced caffeine. Most companies use synthetic caffeine, it's just cheaper. But we're Neolife, and we figure, well, if the natural stuff is available, why wouldn't we use the natural stuff? Why not use caffeine that we can extract from green tea instead of a synthetic caffeine that starts with that's a starting compound is a chemical that's really hard for most people to pronounce. So caffeine and sun-theanine work better together. Sun-theanine enhances caffeine's benefits and it reduces caffeine's negative side effects. And the two of them together give us more mental and physical energy. So these are what the 10 studies showed. Sun-theanine and caffeine together improve attention span. They improve the ability to focus with reduced feeling of stress. And they work together to improve both short-term and long-term memory. And this part is important. The two of them together help us to switch more easily between one mentally demanding task to another without sacrificing speed. And the reason that this is important is because multitasking, it turns out, is actually not good for brain health. There are studies that came out of Stanford that show that multitasking actually reduces our IQ. It makes us dumber. Our brains are just not designed to multitask. Now I know there's some superhuman people out there that can truly multitask. I know I haven't met them, but most of us mortals cannot and should not multitask. It is not good for us. The ideal goal is that we're able to switch from task to task quickly and easily. That's the ideal goal. Not that we're trying to do too many things at the same time, but that we can switch easily from one task to another. And that's what sun-theanine and caffeine help us do. And then with the other studies on sun-theanine, here's what the 45 studies on sun-theanine showed. So sun-theanine has been shown to reduce stress. It's been shown to provide relief from PMS symptoms. It's been shown to support a healthy immune response. Actually, specifically, it helps prevent colds and flus. And it's actually been shown to help improve focus and calm in people with ADHD. In fact, one of our promoters gives it to his daughter who has ADD, and he calls it nature's Adderall. Also, what the studies show is that sun-theanine makes a great sleep aid because it promotes relaxation without causing drowsiness. So it's ideal to take during the day. It's not like sleeping pills, right? Sleeping pills have a sedative effect, knock us out. But what sun-theanine does is it promotes good quality of sleep because it reduces anxiety and stress. So instead of our brains, keeping us awake, worrying and being anxious about stuff, taking sun-theanine during the day actually helps calm those anxious thoughts so we can sleep better. Now, Elevate also contains taurine and glycine. These are both amino acids, also not for protein building, but they're nootropic ingredients. They're neuroprotective. They support a healthy inflammatory response. They both have antioxidant properties. And taurine is really important. So taurine comes from the Latin word taurus, meaning bull, and the reason it comes from the Latin word taurus, meaning bull, is because it was first isolated from ox bile. Now, nobody uses ox bile to get their taurine. Our taurine is actually vegan. But I do think that the word taurus and the meaning bull is appropriate for this ingredient because it's so powerful. So taurine is a precursor to the calming neurotransmitter GABA, which reduces stress and anxiety. And taurine also helps balance out the negative effects of caffeine. Taurine improves reaction time. There was a study on taurine and caffeine on boxers, and the researchers looked at taurine versus caffeine versus taurine and caffeine versus placebo, and it turns out that taurine and caffeine together help the boxers to react more quickly to stimuli. Also, taurine has been shown in clinical trials to help improve exercise performance. It's linked to reduced fatigue, less muscle damage, less muscle soreness, and one study even showed that taurine helped runners run faster. Now, taurine levels decrease with age. So taurine levels in 60-year-olds are only about a third of those aged 5 years old. So we lose taurine as we age. And again, Neolife doesn't test on animals. We never test on animals, but sometimes there's animal studies that are so significant that we have to take note. And this animal study that just came out 7 months ago on taurine was a little mind-blowing, actually, because it turns out that the animals that received a taurine supplement were significantly healthier and more youthful than the animals that didn't get the taurine supplement. And also, the animals that received the taurine supplement, their lifespan was increased by 10 to 12%. So if you translate that to human years, that would give us about an additional 7 or 8 years of life, the taurine supplement. Now, the same researchers then they studied the blood of over 12,000 people. And those people that had more taurine in their blood were healthier. They had less overall disease rates, they had less diabetes, they had less hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and obesity. And they had overall less inflammation because they had more taurine. So taurine is really essential for optimal health. Glycine, the other nootropic, is also essential for optimal health. It protects muscle mass and function, and it's also the building block for creatine, which supplies energy to the muscles. Now, it seems to me that most energy drinks do not have vitamin D, and for the life of me, I cannot figure out why. Because vitamin D, first of all, is critical for optimal health. At least 42% of adults in the United States are vitamin D deficient, which means even more have vitamin D insufficiency. And vitamin D deficiency increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, autoimmune diseases, dementia, depression. And vitamin D is really important in an energy drink. It's really important for muscle function. So vitamin D has 3 roles. It's critical for the synthesis of the neurotransmitters dopamine and serotonin. It helps with energy production, helps with muscle function. It plays a really important role in muscle regeneration and repair. And athletes and people who work out a lot tend to have vitamin D deficiency and insufficiency. And this has been proven over and over again. And it doesn't matter how much sun exposure athletes or people who work out a lot get. It doesn't matter where they live. So athletes and people who work out a lot tend to have vitamin D deficiency or insufficiency. And then if we have vitamin D deficiency or insufficiency, then this negatively impacts athletic performance, and it also increases our risk of injuries. And also, vitamin D deficiency and insufficiency is associated with feelings of fatigue and exhaustion. But the good news is, when athletes are supplemented with vitamin D3, then it's been shown to increase muscle strength and power. So supplementing with vitamin D is a really essential thing for optimal health, and also especially if you're someone that's active. Elevate contains choline, which also helps with energy metabolism, specifically because it helps to break down fat to use as an energy source. And it's required to make acetylcholine, and acetylcholine is important for learning and for memory. Now, who should take Elevate? So, Elevate is good for anyone who wants to improve short-term and long-term memory, anyone that wants to improve focus and concentration, or increase physical energy, or improve mood, or reduce stress, improve sleep quality, reduce PMS symptoms, or anyone that needs or wants to take nature's Adderall. And also anyone that wants to pretend they're good at multitasking because they can now switch from task to task more easily. Also, anyone who feels anxious from drinking coffee or tea that still wants the benefits of caffeine. There's been several studies that show that people that drink a lot of coffee tend to just feel more anxious and stressed out. And there was even a recent study on college-age students who were more anxious and depressed from drinking coffee. So Elevate actually, like what I keep saying is it helps reduce the negative side effects of caffeine and enhances all the positive benefits of caffeine. Now I'm going to talk for a moment about artificial sweeteners before we get into the competition. So last year, the British Medical Journal published an article that looked at over 100,000 participants. And what they found is all of the artificial sweeteners, ACE-K, aspartame, sucralose, which is also known as Splenda, all have inflammatory properties. And because they have inflammatory properties, they are connected to an increased risk of both cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases, to heart diseases and strokes. So what the researchers concluded is that it doesn't matter that the FDA thinks these things are safe, or that EFSA is the ruling body in the EU. It doesn't matter that these governing agencies think that artificial sweeteners are safe. The reality is that if people consumed less of these things, or none of them at all, if people eliminated artificial sweeteners from their diet, it would go a long way in helping them reduce the risk of heart disease and stroke. Elevate contains stevia because stevia has been consistently shown in multiple studies to support a healthy inflammatory response. Now let's look at our competitors. So let's start with Advocare Spark. So Advocare Spark either contains artificial sweeteners like sucralose, or it contains sugar. There's an alternatively sweetened Spark that contains the sugar alcohol xylitol. Not that xylitol is necessarily bad, but if you're drinking a fair amount of it, which you would have to do in this kind of a drink, it's going to act as a laxative and it's going to cause sort of gas and bloating, which isn't necessarily what you want to feel from drinking an energy drink. It contains synthetic caffeine. There's only 200 milligrams of taurine. Ours says 500 milligrams. You need at least 500 milligrams to really feel a difference with the taurine. And it has no nootropic effect except for the 120 milligrams of synthetic caffeine. But as we keep saying, caffeine by itself is not going to work as well as something and caffeine together. Plus it has no vitamin D. I looked at Herbalife's Liftoff, which contains corn syrup solids, which is sugar. It actually also contains polyethylene glycol, which is it's a chemical that's sweet. So I guess they added it to maybe reduce the sugar content. I don't know why anybody would put polyethylene glycol in a drink, but there you have it. And it contains sucralose. It contains GMOs. It's even labeled. Contains bioengineered food ingredients. It contains 75 milligrams of synthetic caffeine. It doesn't list how much taurine is in the product, which makes me think there's probably not very much because they're not posting about it. And there's no vitamin D. Now, Herbalife Liftoff also has one that's been certified for athletes, NSF Sport. So I took a look at that one. It contains GMOs, has synthetic caffeine, has no vitamin D, which is essential for athletes, and again, it doesn't list how much taurine is in the product. I looked at Amway XS, which is a canned drink. They use artificial sweeteners. They have 114 milligrams of synthetic caffeine. It contains GMO ingredients. Doesn't list the amount of taurine, so we don't know how much is in there, and there's no vitamin D. Celsius. Now, Celsius is interesting. Okay, so these are the stick packs. It's artificially sweetened, doesn't list the amount of taurine. It uses 200 milligrams of synthetic caffeine and no vitamin D. But here's the thing that I thought was disturbingly interesting. So they list clinical studies on their website. I think this is one of the more popular energy drinks, at least on Amazon. So I looked at the clinical studies. And even though they're saying, oh, these clinical studies show that our product works, actually when you looked at the clinical studies, this is what they showed. One study showed there was no benefit found unless they exercised, which is really consistent with just drinking caffeine and exercising. You're going to find that anyway. Another study had no placebo, but they compared Celsius, which contains 200 milligrams, to Diet Coke, which contains 46 milligrams. Which do you think is going to do better? So there was another study that compared Celsius to decaffeinated coffee, which do you think is going to do better? Another study found no significant difference between Celsius and a placebo. And then another study just showed what caffeine does in the body, and it wasn't specific to their drink. So you have to, be aware of companies that'll put studies up on their website, because a lot of times there's really nothing behind them, including Celsius. I tried to find a couple more sort of naturally, like products that advertise themselves as natural. I found Feel Natural Energy. And it does have 120 milligrams from coffee beans, that's natural. It has 100 milligrams of theanine, but these are not the clinically backed doses. You have to have basically almost a 2-to-1 ratio of sun-theanine to caffeine for it to really work as an nootropic. Also, they label it as L-theanine. So guess where it's from? It's going to be that poor quality stuff from China. So they're not using sun-theanine, there's no L-taurine, there's no vitamin D. Here's the other natural one that I found, Zest Plant Powered Energy. Again, it has caffeine from tea, so it's naturally occurring, but they only have 100 milligrams of L-theanine. It's the one from China because it's labeled L-theanine, and they don't have the clinically backed dose. They're not using the right ingredient, which is sun-theanine, and they don't have the right amount to actually be nootropic. There's no taurine, no vitamin D, and their drinks contain either sugar or sugar alcohol. And the sugar alcohol is like xylitol or erythritol, which gives you sort of gas and bloating if you drink too much of it. Red Bull sugar-free, artificially sweetened, artificially flavored, synthetic caffeine, doesn't list the amount of taurine, has no vitamin D. Same pattern here. So the last one I was going to talk about, Ghost sugar-free, and this says with nootropics. It has 200 milligrams of caffeine from coffee bean. It's artificially flavored, it's artificially sweetened. It claims brain boosting nootropics because it has something called neurofactor coffee fruit extract, which I've looked into that ingredient multiple times, by the way. The one study on it shows that it increases something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, but actually caffeine does that. Caffeine increases that. That's just something, it's a compound basically in the brain that is neuroprotective, so it's good, it's good that it elevates BDNF, but you're not going to get any more of a nootropic effect than you would from just drinking caffeine by itself. And again, sun-theanine and caffeine are going to really have the true nootropic effect. Doesn't have any vitamin D, and it contains alpha GPC. What do we know about alpha GPC? In a study of 12 million people in the Journal of the American Medical Association, alpha GPC increased risk of stroke by 46%. It increased risk of atherosclerosis, which is a hardening of the arteries, in preclinical trials. So alpha GPC is found in a lot of these energy or sports drinks, but it's a bad ingredient and it's harmful, and we would not put it in our products. This is, just sort of like, this is on our website. It sort of gives you an overview of us versus the competition, but I wanted to make sure we covered it more in depth today, because this chart doesn't sort of show, not only are we better, but really those products, I think, are just really aren't going to do what they say that they claim to do. And again, if someone has any other competitors out there that I haven't covered, or you have questions about, come find me. I'm here the rest of today, and I'm here tomorrow. And I'm very curious to talk to you about it. So we're going to go over some commonly asked questions about Elevate. Can Elevate be heated? Is caffeine bad for people? Should people drink Elevate instead of coffee? Does Elevate have the same L-taurine as other products? And are there enough electrolytes in Elevate? So can Elevate be heated? Well, that's an interesting question. I've never tried it, so I wouldn't try it. Actually, it tastes delicious. We did develop it to be room temperature or cold. The downside of heating Elevate is the B vitamins and the vitamin C are water soluble, and so they're heat sensitive. So it's not going to make them go away altogether, but it would probably decrease some of the potency of the B vitamins and the vitamin C. So if for people that want to heat it, maybe just don't bring the water to a boil. Like just get it hot but not boiling, or just put it in the microwave for a very short period of time so you don't totally destroy the B vitamins and vitamin C. Is caffeine bad for people? So 90% of adults worldwide consume caffeine. 90% of the entire world consume caffeine in some form or another. And most regulatory bodies deem, and studies, research studies, indicate that 400 milligrams a day of caffeine is safe for most people. Obviously, if you have high blood pressure, or you're taking any medication that's contraindicated with caffeine, or your doctor says don't consume caffeine, then obviously don't do it. But caffeine is safe and healthy for most people. And again, I can't say this enough, but the advantage that Elevate has is that it's going to reduce the negative side effects of caffeine, and it's going to increase caffeine's benefits. Should people drink Elevate instead of coffee? You know, some people really love their coffee, and it's fine to drink both. Elevate has 120 milligrams of caffeine. Coffee has about approximately 100 milligrams per cup. That gets you to about 220 milligrams. Like, there's nothing unsafe about doing both. It sort of depends on people's individual preferences and their ability to process caffeine. Coffee does have some polyphenols in it, which is helpful for heart health or immune function. They're just different drinks, right? Again, Elevate is designed to increase the benefits of caffeine and decrease the negative effects of caffeine. Does Elevate contain the same source of L-taurine as other products? So I don't know what taurine other companies use, but what I do know about our L-taurine and about our every single ingredient is that we have every single document that exists on each ingredient that we use in every Neolite products. Not to mention that we test more than the FDA requires. So what I do know about our L-taurine is that it's GMO-free, it's vegan, it's kosher, and it's hypoallergenic. So we use only the best quality L-taurine that's available. Are there enough electrolytes in Elevate? So we have less sodium than most electrolyte drinks because people usually get enough sodium in their diet. I didn't add chloride to Elevate because, again, so most people get plenty of table salt. And what is table salt? It's sodium chloride. So most people get enough sodium and most people get enough chloride because they're getting a lot of table salt. However, what we did is we added more potassium than a lot of other electrolyte drinks because most people in the United States are deficient in potassium. Most people are not getting enough fruits and vegetables. So we added more potassium. So we have enough calcium, magnesium, and potassium and sodium to enhance hydration and to help with hydration. Now, if people are sweating profusely from menopause or running a marathon, then obviously it's good to keep hydrating throughout the day. But I've also heard that a lot of people, including myself, drink Elevate first thing in the morning, and that is a great way to rehydrate after sleeping all night long. So yes, there are enough electrolytes in Elevate to enhance rapid hydration. Now, Elevate and Upbeat are very different. They work synergistically together. Elevate increases energy through brain chemistry, by supporting neurotransmitter health. Upbeat is for athletes, it's for people that work out. So I take it 30 to 60 minutes before I work out because I know I'm going to get more out of my workout with Upbeat than if I don't take it at all. Because Upbeat increases stamina and endurance through the nitric oxide pathway. It gives people dietary nitrates, and it also helps activate the body's own ability to make nitric oxide. So they work synergistically together. One is through brain chemistry and the other is through nitric oxide. Upbeat also supports healthy cardiovascular system and healthy blood pressure. It actually helps lower blood pressure. And our promoters tell us that Upbeat helps with both male and female sexual function. People also ask if they can take Elevate and Neolife tea together. And again, there's a very synergistic combination. Neolife tea contains about 80 to 85 milligrams of natural caffeine from green, black, and white teas. So 120 milligrams of Elevate plus about 80 or so milligrams of caffeine from Neolife tea is about 200 milligrams. So again, it depends on people's caffeine tolerance and their preference, but they work very nicely together. Neolife tea also contains an adaptogenic blend that helps with stress, and it provides important polyphenols from the tea that are important for heart health and immune health. And it's naturally sweetened, and there's no artificial colors or flavors or sweeteners or preservatives added. Now here are some recent testimonials on Elevate. So one promoter that I know called me up and she was like, you know, I tend to be depressed all the time, and all of a sudden I noticed that I wasn't depressed anymore, and I was just feeling more positive about everything. And she said, the only thing that I changed was I've been taking Elevate for the past 2 weeks. So for her, it really made a shift in sort of being like seeing the glass half empty to now seeing the glass half full. And there's another promoter that I know that told me that they're way more organized and efficient now that they're drinking Elevate than before they were drinking Elevate. And then someone else I know, he said that caffeine just makes him anxious. He can't drink tea, he can't drink coffee, but when he drinks Elevate, he's fine. He says he feels calm and energized at the same time. And then I'll read you this testimonial, which says, I haven't had an energy drink in years until Elevate. I stopped drinking any type of energy drinks because they use artificial flavors and sweeteners, or I didn't drink them because the ones that did use natural flavors and sweeteners tasted so bad. Then came Elevate. It's truly the first healthy energy drink that I love. It tastes amazing, so refreshing. I love that it doesn't have any artificial flavors or sweeteners, and the best part is it works. My energy and focus have never been better. I've been drinking at least one Elevate a day now for months. It is my number one go-to source for energy to be able to keep up with my 3 kids, which are 1, 3, and 5 years old all day. Elevate has quickly become one of our top 10 best-selling products. My understanding is it energized a lot of people's businesses, which I think is fantastic. And just so you know, behind the scenes, we're working on another flavor. So to summarize, Elevate, the Neolife difference. Clinically backed doses of natural caffeine and suntheine. It is the only naturally sweetened energy drink with true nootropic benefits, at least that I was able to find. It's sweetened with stevia, which helps support a healthy inflammatory response. It contains vitamin D for immune health and optimal athletic performance. There's no harmful or bad ingredients in Elevate. And caffeine and suntheine have been clinically shown to improve memory, to improve focus and concentration, to improve task switching, to increase energy, to improve mood. And suntheine has been clinically shown to reduce stress, help with immune health, including preventing colds and flus, help reduce PMS symptoms, help with ADHD, nature's Adderall, and also improve sleep quality. So I want to thank you all for listening to the talk today, and I really want to especially thank the Blaines and the Clarks and you all for making the Wisdom Builders Retreat such a special event. I love being here, and I'm very thankful to be here with you all.